Whether you've already completed 1 run, 10 runs, or you're still stuck in character creation wondering which build is best for romancing a green lady or a bear, this trophy guide is here to help you conquer all 54 achievements. But before we dive in, a quick heads up. This guide is packed with spoilers, so if you haven't done your first run yet, stop! Seriously, hit pause and go enjoy that spoiler-free experience because you can only play Baldur's Gate 3 for the first time once. And I promise you, you don't want to rob yourself of that. But when you're ready for round 2, which you will want to do, trust me, come back and I'll help you stack up those achievements like scrolls in your backpack.
Vermin, away.
And with that out of the way, I have some good news. Even though I'm going to break down each individual trophy in this video, you can actually knock out 53 of the 54 achievements in just 1 run, with a little safe scumming. If you are interested in how that plays out and want to see how I fumbled my way through my very first run, I've got that video linked in the description. Alright, let's dive into the video and start with the difficulty-based trophies, Critical Hit and Foehammer. Critical Hit is earned by choosing the Tactician difficulty at the start of your playthrough, never ever changing it to a different mode and finishing the game, meaning you need to make it all the way to the final showdown in Act 3 and defeat the brain, so no cheesing like using Gale to blow it up in Act 2. The same goes for Foehammer, but this time you'll choose Honor mode for your playthrough. Again, commit to it and beat the game without ever lowering the difficulty. Just in case that you were hoping that you'll get the trophy after continuing Honor mode in Dishonor mode when your party got wiped, because it still says Honor mode when you try to delete the save. No! What you can do, however, is stack these 2 achievements, so if you somehow survive Honor mode, you'll get Critical Hit too without having to slog through an entire Tactician run separately. I do want to extend a big warning for these trophies, because currently, if you bring Gale to the final battle, and then I mean the one atop the brain at the end of Act 3, and let him go nuclear with his orb, guess what? No trophy for you, because you've just blown up your entire crew and none of the ending cutscenes play. RIP. The only way to get these trophies while letting Gale orb himself is as follows. When you go to the Morphic pool in Act 3, bring Gale with you. The Emperor will then save you from the brain and explain that only a Mind Flayer can use the stones. Instead of volunteering as tribute yourself, Gale will. Whether you agree with him or not in this moment doesn't really matter, because later, when you reach the stem of the brain, Gale will once again offer to blow it up. If you say yes this time, he'll teleport your crew to safety before exploding, so you'll get the proper ending and the trophy, because hey, your friends didn't get Oppenheim this time. And if you're wondering what choices lead to Gale actually self-sacrificing, there might be multiple paths, but personally I got it by talking him out of using the orb in Act 2, keeping him from pursuing godhood in Act 3, and leaving him just a little bit indifferent about Mystra. Next up, we're gonna jump into the ending-based achievements. Sins of the Father. For this ending, you must play as the Dark Urge and become Baal's Chosen. And that means embracing your urge and getting the Slayer form. You can do this in Act 2 by killing Isabel at Last Light Inn. If you resist that urge, however, your butler will basically force you to kill your most loved companion in a long rest event. If you give in, that will also result in the Slayer form, but if you resist both, you can still get it right after defeating Orin in Act 3. And it doesn't matter whether you 1v1 Orin or Slayer as a team, as long as you're playing as the Dark Urge, you'll get the cutscene where you can accept Baal's gift.
Claim the crown of Karsus, control the Absolute, and command the Horde fit to butcher this world in my name.
Then once you finish the final fight atop the brain, take the Nether Stones for yourself and rule in Baal's name. Absolute power corrupts. This one is very similar, except you cannot become Baal's Chosen. Either you have to resist the urge and turn your back on Baal while playing as a Dark Urge, or just play as a regular old Taff or Origin character. Then, when the option comes to destroy the brain for good in Act 3, forget about saving the world and choose to take the Netherstones for yourself to rule in your name. Hero of the Forgotten Realms. If you actually want to become a hero, there are multiple ways. Like for example, getting to the end of the brain fight and commanding it to kill itself. This can be with you, the Emperor, Orpheus, or even Karlach as the Mind Flayer. Or, if you prefer the Orbenheimer route, let Gale nuke himself. This can be in Act 2, when you take Gale to fight Catherick in the Mind Flayer colony, or this can be in Act 3 before climbing up to the brain or even atop the brain. Just let him do the work and you somehow get to call yourself a hero, even when the whole party dies from the nuke. Oh well. All's well that ends well. This achievement should pop up with any of the endings, whether you're the hero or the villain, except if Gale uses the orb in Act 2. There's some mixed info about whether it triggers if he uses the orb in Act 3, and I can no longer test it because I already have the achievement, so if you've tried that and either did or did not get the trophy, drop a comment down below and share your experience to help others. Now let's run through the almost unmissable story achievements. Descent from Avernus. Just reach the transponder at the helm of the Nautiloid and click it. You could fight for XP or you could simply run past everything. Either way, hit that transponder. The Plot Thickens. Get through Act 1 and get into Act 2, aka leave for the Shadowlands. And you can go through the Mountain Pass or the Underdark, pick your poison, there are no other requirements. The City Awaits. Complete Act 2 and get into Act 3. For this one there are a few steps. So in Act 2 you will have to tackle the Gauntlet of Shar in order to proceed into the Shadowfell. From there you'll work up to the final battle where you take down Catherick in the Illithid colony, and finally take the road to Baldur's Gate and assist the Dream Visitor with the Githyanki. Then right before or upon reaching Rivington, you'll receive the achievement. Let us move on to the companion related trophies, starting off with Hot Date. To obtain this achievement you'll have to romance Karlach. Then once you hit Act 3 and reach the lower city, head to camp where Karlach will ask you out on a proper date.
A first date. Please say yes.
Have a fun night and receive the achievement. Which sounds easy, but there is a little bit more to it. First up, you cannot play as Karlach to get this trophy. You have to recruit her in your camp, and you need to put in the work in Act 1 and 2 to romance her.
Fuck yes.
That means making sure that her approval is high enough by doing generally good deeds, flirting with her whenever the opportunity arises. You also have to protect Dammon at all costs, as he is the only one who can upgrade Karlach's engine, so don't go and kill him by attacking the grove with Minthara. Karlach won't approve of that anyway and leave your ass. To get the first upgrade, you have to pick up the Infernal Iron located in the Blighted Village. It's behind the shabby wooden doors in a chest in the cellar. You also have to help Karlach take down the fake Paladins of Tyr. After that, she'll start burning really hot, and from that moment you can take her and the iron to Dammon in the Emerald Grove to unlock the first upgrade. Then, in Act 2 at Last Light Inn, you have to get the second engine upgrade from Dammon. Otherwise you won't trigger the date scene in Act 3 as she is still too hot to touch. That then means that if Isabel gets taken by Marcus, or if you kill Isabel before you've gotten the engine upgrade from Dammon, this trophy is off the table.
Dammon! No!
Also, I noticed some debate online on whether Karlach will leave you if you play as a Dark Urge and choose to snuff out Isabel's light. Well, I tested this while romanced with high approval, romanced with neutral approval, and even unromanced with neutral approval, and it was never a deal breaker apparently. Which is quite sus given her initial reaction.
There's a slayer among us.
But I won't complain because it keeps Karlach around, so all that really matters is that you get the engine upgrade from Dammon before you choose to slice Isabel if you want to get both the Slayer form and the Hot Date trophy. And this goes without saying, but if you choose to resist your urge with Isabel, Scleritas will come to your camp one night and want you to kill a loved one. Make sure you succeed on the first saving throw to wake Karlach, fail it, and things go downhill pretty fast. Pass it though, and you're good. No more heart-stopping moments from then on, only heart melting.
That you in there, love?
Just a nibble. Let Astarion sink his fangs into you for this one. That means that you cannot be playing as him and you must recruit him as a companion. Usually it kicks off when in a long rest scene he sneaks away at night. The next one, the bite's coming. Unless a new, more important long rest event is triggered due to exploration, so make sure to hit enough long rests to not miss out or have it further down in the long rest queue. After the sneak scene, you can come across a blood-drained boar in the wild. Click it. This should also trigger the bite during your next long rest, but you don't have to find the boar to get the scene. Now all you have to do is to allow him to nibble on your neck and the achievement will pop up. Repairing the weave. To get this one, you need to stabilize Gale's Netherese orb by either playing as Gale or recruiting him. At one point, he will mention his magical snack problem, and you'll need to trigger at least one of these Arcane Hunger events where you give him an item. Then, once you hit the Shadow-Cursed lands through either the Mountain Pass or the Underdark, Elminster will appear at either of these locations. Or if you choose to let Gale suffer for a while and only give him an item in the Shadow-Cursed lands, he'll appear at camp after a long rest. Regardless, he will stabilize Gale's orb, making this trophy yours. To bloom in darkest night, gift Shadowheart a Night Orchid. For this one, you cannot play as Shadowheart and you must recruit her as a companion. Approval also needs to be relatively high to trigger the conversation that leads to this achievement. So, an easy way to receive a boost is to speak directly to her after encountering Raphael in Act 1 and standing firmly against making a pact with the devil.
Good. That's what I wanted to hear.
Also make sure you never pry too much into her past. Then, once she's comfy enough, Shadowheart will confess her status as a Shar worshipper, and you have to react either positively or neutral. Then when you talk to her again, an option will pop up to ask her about getting to know her besides Shar and the parasites, which is where she will mention her love for night orchids. Now, just find one in the Shadow-Cursed lands. There are 3 spots to get them from. The first is quite close to Last Light. You can look at these coordinates. Then there's one near the Shadowed Battlefield waypoint, and the last one is sort of overlooking the tent of He Who Was, where you can climb up the roots. Or you can pick one up in Act 3 at the Cloister of Somber Embrace. You only need to pick up one though, start a conversation with Shart. There will now be an option to gift it to her, and that will result in this achievement. Loophole. Break Will's pact with Mizora. I imagine you can get this one while playing as Will, but I couldn't actually find any info on it, so it definitely works when having Will as a companion, which means you have to recruit Will either in the Emerald Grove, where he's training the Tiefling kids, or if you recruited Karlach before meeting Will, when he shows up in camp with a long rest. Once he's recruited, the rest of the steps to get this trophy start in Act 2. Mizora will eventually show up at camp and demand Will to rescue an asset from Moonrise Towers. If you pass the perception check, which happens automatically, you'll see that she's nervous and you can immediately negotiate to break his pact. If you fail the perception check, don't worry, you can also renegotiate once you find Mizora in the Mind Flayer colony. But you do have to succeed the roll with a DC of 14 to convince her in both situations. And you do not have to bring Will to the Mind Flayer colony for this to work. When you get there, Mizora can be found in the Tadpoling Center and will be most happy to see you.
Razzet's cock, it's about time you came.
Then make sure to hit that unleash button on her pod in the Mind Flayer colony, not the Annihilator one. It won't save Will. Upon reaching Worm's Rock in Act 3, just before you go to Gortash's coronation, Mizora will appear and speak to you about bringing Will, which you don't have to. But after the coronation, at your next long rest, she will come to camp and offer Will an ultimatum. Here you must encourage Will to break the pact. If you do, the hole has been looped. And don't worry, you can still save Daddy Ravenguard at the Iron Throne, but you'll just have to defend him from Mizora's extra explosive spiders while getting him out, which is much easier than you might expect. Fetch quest. Play fetch with Scratch. You can find Scratch lingering around his dead owner's body near the cave entrance outside of the Blighted Village and talk to him. Choose the non-aggressive options and pass the check. Then let him sniff your scent and he'll stay with his owner for a little bit longer but eventually shows up at your camp. When he does, wait for him to have an exclamation mark where he has something in his mouth. Click on him, pass the check and receive the ball. Or if you have speak with animals, he'll just give it to you. The ball should now appear in your inventory and you can use the throw action, choose the ball, yeet it away and he'll run after it. Once he brings it back to you, the achievement will unlock. You have 2 hands for a reason. Pat Scratch and the Owlbear Cup at the same time. First off, you can watch the previous achievement Fetch Quest to learn how to recruit the goodest boy in the realms, Scratch. As for the cup, that requires a bit more effort. Start by finding the cave entrance near the Blighted Village. Once inside, you can approach the owlbear mum and either pass a check to leave peacefully or fight her. If you choose the latter, you have to spare the cup, so be wary of any accidental opportunity attacks. Or if you've spoken to the dying True Soul and convinced his companions to get revenge, they'll help you in the fight. But those idiots might start attacking the cup, so make sure that the cup keeps a safe distance from them, or just off them if they start acting difficult. Oh, and in honor mode, she'll call in her maid for an extra challenge. Yikes. Once the owlbear is down, you have to choose to let the cup live in the cutscene that follows and walk away. And you'll later find this cup in the goblin camp. And the same goes for when you left peacefully, because then the goblins will come and take care of the owlbear instead. At the goblin camp, you must talk to Krolla, who will mention a round of chicken chasing. Win or lose, doesn't matter, afterwards the cup will start running around the camp. You can also tell Krolla that it is barbaric to engage in this game, after which the little cup will start running as well. When he does, you can talk to the cup and either pass the animal handling check so you can let him sniff your scent, or if you have speak with animals, you can just tell him to come to camp. He won't dare to leave though as long as the goblins are around, so you either have to persuade or intimidate Krolla that you are taking the cup. You can buy the cup, or you can just slaughter the whole camp and let him run off. After that, he'll eventually show up at camp, but this might take a few long rests, especially if other long rest events are queuing up, because this one does not seem to be of a high enough priority, when it should be. But don't stress about it or about moving into Act 2, because he'll still join you after enough long rests. The first time he arrives, one of your companions will actually spook him away. Don't worry, he will come back the second time, but he'll be wounded. Help him out, pass the check, and boom, he is now in your camp. But hold on, you probably think now that you just need to pet both Scratch and the owlbear, right? Wrong. You'll need another long rest to trigger the cutest interaction ever, and I recommend doing this immediately after you have them both to avoid missing it. Also, pro tip, drink an animal speaking potion or cast the spell before this rest because it's so worth it. In this long rest, your character will wake up to a screeching sound. Head over to investigate and find Scratch and the owlbear chilling together. At one point, you'll now get the option to pet them both. Do it and the achievement will be yours. Mind blown. Romance the Emperor. If you've been kind to the Emperor throughout your playthrough, especially after learning that he's a mind flayer, Act 3 presents a unique opportunity. Head to this location in the sewers and go up the ladder to immediately find the Emperor's old hideout. Alternatively, you can also go to the Elfsong Tavern basement, which you can reach from the wooden stairs in the kitchen. If you do choose to go to the Elfsong Tavern, you will have to fight the kids that are in the area right after you go to that hidden door in the wine cellar. And this can be quite a tough fight if you are not prepared, so I just wanted to point that out. Now, once you're inside the Emperor's old hideout, interact with his belongings, listen to his stories, and complete the quest. When you long rest afterwards, the Emperor will now make a move. Respond favorably and you'll experience an intimate moment and walk away with the achievement. And don't worry, your other romances will remain blissfully unaware. Eventually. Now I'm gonna go through all the choice and location based trophies. Devil's in the details. Wake up aboard the Nautiloid and go to the helm where a Geich and a Cambion called Commander Zelk are throwing hands. Kill Zelk, get the achievement. Here are some tips on how to do it. Gather the chests aboard the Nautiloid, and then I specifically mean 2 cartilaginous chests and the jewelry box. Stack them on this specific place before you enter the helm, and pray to the nitpicking pixel placement gods, because we are blocking these 2 Cambions from entering, but if it's a little too much to the right, or to the left, or not stacked well enough, it doesn't work. Or sometimes it only works on one of the 2, which is really random. You don't have to do this, but it can make things a little bit easier. Otherwise, shoving Zelk back towards the transponder can help, as it will take more turns for the Cambions to get into the radius where they can hit y'all. Regardless, before you enter, you also have to make sure that you have both Lae'zel and Shadowheart as companions, and change Shadowheart's spells by going to her inventory, clicking the icon here, and then include command. When you now enter, have her cast command drop weapon on Zalk. Hopefully for you it works on the first try. You can also try a second time. If both fail, well, good luck. If it works, however, Zalk drops his fiery sword, which, by the way, is an incredible sword to have in Act 1. You can pick it up and equip it, or get Lae'zel to do it if you're like a wizard or something. It will cost a turn, but the extra damage that it does is so worth it. Without the sword, Zalk now only does 6 damage per punch, so that's 12 per round, unless he misses. Meaning that the Mind Flayer will stay alive much longer to help kill him. Which is great, until it isn't. Because when Zalk is down, the Mind Flayer will turn hostile towards your party if all the imps in the room are dead, and the Cambions don't count, sadly. He does quite a lot of damage, so make sure you can one-shot him immediately after Zalk. Though, I guess it doesn't matter for this achievement, because the moment Zalk falls to the ground, Devils in the Details is yours. Rude, crude, and full of attitude. Find and summon the Quasset Shovel. In the Blighted Village, find the house with the waypoint and pop into the cellar through the hatch behind the bar. See that bookcase? Well, there's a lever to the right of it behind some crates. Pull it to reveal a hidden passage and walk through it. Then open the first coffin on the right with the scroll to summon Shovel inside. Do we want? Mess with the other coffins and you'll have a bone to pick. That was the finding part. Now for the summoning part. You'll find the scroll in your inventory and you can use it like you would any other. And then get an interesting new friend?
Feeling toe rag!
Pest Control. Kill the spider matriarch before her eggs hatch. In the Blighted Village, there's a well leading to the Whispering Depths. Alternatively, you can also go through the shabby wooden doors in the house across from the waypoint, of which the key lies in the house above. And you can then equip a bludgeoning weapon and smash through the wall on the right, or you can climb the rocks on the left and smash through that wall to get to the location. You can first fight the spiders with the ether caps to get used to their fighting mechanics, and also go and grab the spider step boots in the heavy chest located in this cave chamber to make your character immune to being enwebbed. Now go to the part in the cave where there's this triangle of webs, and it's time to squish the matriarch. But if this fight triggers immediately, there is a high likelihood that you will miss out on the trophy because her initiative is really high and usually her first move will be to hatch the eggs. Therefore, you can choose to stealth your way through the map with the spider step boots to shoot all the eggs before triggering the fight. And there are 3 locations to hit. When they are gone, you can just start the fight as normal and there is nothing for her to hatch. So, once she's exterminated, you'll have the achievement pop up. Do be wary that shooting the eggs can trigger the fight. But maybe you feel like you can one-shot her, or throw her in a chasm, and then you don't need to take care of those eggs. All that really matters is that she dies before hatching any of them. Forged in Blood and Fire. Craft an item in the Adamantine Forge. In the Underdark, you can travel to the Grym Forge by taking the boat at the beach where the Dwagar are residing. When you reach this new area, you'll have to walk up to this location and smash the rubble. You can do this by talking to the Rote with Speak with Animals to get them to attack the Dwagar.
Now get to the Canaan!
And then if they survive the battle, you can ask them to clear the path. Or alternatively, you can break through it yourself with bludgeoning damage or force damage. Now continue up the stairs and watch out for all the traps in the next section. Climb down the stairs here and jump on the platform, and then onto the walkway in the middle. Run all the way to the end and you can see another platform within the fallback 2 levers. You can shoot these with a range attack, you can cast Mage Hand to operate them, or you can even send the character all the way around to use them, but easiest is just to shoot them. Use the right lever to move the platform upwards and then jump on it. Now shoot the left lever to move it forward. You can now in theory jump off, but this usually causes a bit of fall damage, so to avoid that, just shoot the right lever again and now jump up to the walkway as that saves you some HP. Finally, jump towards the room and you'll see the forge straight ahead. Now that you've found it, let's get to crafting the item. First, you'll need to pick up a mold and there are 6 laying around the area of the Grym Forge. There is a longsword mold and you'll find this one on that first metal bridge platform that you jumped onto while making your way to the forge. And with it, you can craft the adamantine longsword. Next up, there's the shield mold, and to get it, you should stay on that middle platform, then shoot the lever closest to the hanging platform to then be able to cross over to the side with the locked door. Lockpick the door or find the key, and then once inside, walk all the way up to that final set of stairs. At the top of it, you'll find a skeleton carrying the mold in his inventory, and this one lets you make the adamantine shield. For the scimitar mold, instead of going through that locked door that we just went through, take the path to the right or to the south or whatever you want to call it, and then jump onto the stone pathway that leads to the 2 levers. You'll there find a skeleton laying next to them with the mold on its body, and with it, you'll be able to craft the adamantine scimitar. Now for the next 3 molds, you can go back to the ancient forge waypoint. The mace mold sits on the table that you likely jumped past when you first arrived here, so grab it and use it to craft the adamantine mace. For the splint mold, from the waypoint you can walk east or to the left, and then after going up the first set of stairs, look off to the side and you'll find it laying there, and this one is used to craft the adamantine splint armor. Finally, there's the scale mail mold, and from the waypoint you can go to the western side or to the right, but warning, picking it up will trigger a fight with some of the animated armor that is hiding there, unless you're like invisible or something. Once you've got it, you can use it to craft the adamantine scale mail armor. Next, you'll have to find mithril ore, and there are 2 locations to get it. The first location can be found to the right of the adamantine waypoint. You will have to fight some animated armor, if you did not already upon grabbing that scale mail mold, and then move around the back of the area. Jump over the lava and get to this glowing rock. Use a bludgeoning weapon on it and voila, your mithril ore will fall out. But don't forget to actually pick it up. You can also choose to grab the ore from the library surrounded by magma that sits to the left just before you hop onto the forge platform. But you guessed it. Magma methods are gonna try to roast you to bits before reaching the place, so be ready for that fight, it can be quite difficult. Then smash the glowing rock with a bludgeoning weapon and pick up your mithril ore. Now it's time to jump onto the platform of the forge, place the mithril ore into the crucible, insert your chosen mold into the mold chamber, and use the forge lever to lower the platform. All that rests is opening the lava valve to let the molten lava flow in, and then pull the lever one final time, and your item is ready. But beware! The moment that you turn that lava valve for the first time, the adamantine golem Grym will come to fight you, and this can be a pretty tough fight if you're not prepared. You can smack him under the forge hammer for some serious damage, unless you also want the next trophy. A Grym Fate. Kill the adamantine golem without using the forge hammer. Just in case you skipped here and missed the instructions that I talked about previously, you can check out Forged in Blood and Fire for instructions on how to reach the forge and start the fight. There are a few things you have to know. Firstly, Grym needs to be superheated to take damage, because otherwise he is invulnerable. To get him superheated, he needs to be standing in or walking through the lava. Grym also has a feature where he will target the character that last hit him with an attack, and you can exploit this feat to sort of force him to move back through the lava if he ever loses that superheated charge. You can choose to leave some companions on the stairs before you ever choose to lower the platform, and then they can perform ranged attacks. But do note that if they are the last to hit Grym, he will now go after the character standing closest to him instead, because he cannot reach up there. Be smart and strategic, or send in an owlbear, but whatever you do, don't use the forge lever, that's literally all that matters. The Lich-Queen's Wrath. Ally with Voss against the Githyanki God Queen. For this achievement, it is easiest to have Lae'zel in your party, though it is not mandatory. In Act 1, you'll likely run into Voss and his Githyanki patrol while at the mountain pass. Whether you decide to persuade him to be chill,
Very well, Istik.
persuade Lae'zel to be chill,
You honor me with this duty, Kithrak.
or just straight up murder the patrol because your persuasive skills need some serious work,
Your lies sting.
the important thing is that, regardless of your choice, Voss flies off on his dragon. For example, if you sneak up on the Giths and attack them, Voss will fight with them against you and thus not fly off on his dragon, meaning it is impossible to get the trophy. Next, make your way to the mountain pass and into the Rosy Morn Monastery. You can take a right down the cable cart and then follow the path to the door, which obviously is locked. Now there are multiple ways to go inside, but here I took the route that takes you out to the front, and then you walk down this path where you do a few jumps, and then you climb back up until you reach this fountain of sorts. From there you can walk into the ruins, then head past the talking head, smash through the barricade, and then you can walk all the way around the statue, down the stairs, and head towards the basement doors behind which you can find the crash. You can go in peacefully, or not, I'm sure the Giths will understand. But bringing Lae'zel will give you an easy entry into the crash, though you can talk your way in without her. Lae'zel will also be really set upon visiting the Zatisk, but just know that you do not need to do it for this trophy. Go to the captain's quarters where you'll find Kithrak Terezin. Persuade her, stab her, whichever floats your boat, but get your hands on the shard that she carries as you'll need it to open the door to the Inquisitor chamber. With the door unlocked, it's time to confront the Inquisitor. He will demand you to hand over the prism or die. But no matter what you choose, you will be forced to fight these Githyanki either before or after entering the prism.
You just couldn't help yourself.
After the Inquisitive fight, you've got to escape the monastery. You can go back the way you came, but you will have to fight the remaining Githyanki if you did not slaughter them on your way in, or you can take the secret exit, which ties into the Taking Blood achievement that I'll explain after this one. The last step of this achievement occurs once you move into the Shadow-Cursed lands. Whether from the Mountain Pass or the Underdark, you'll hit a forced long rest where Voss will show up at your camp. This is the time to ally with him against Vlaakith, or if Lae'zel is with you, you can let her choose, because if her fate in the Lich-Queen has wavered after the events at the monastery, she'll agree to side with Voss, resulting in this achievement. Taking Blood. Steal the blood of Lathander from underneath the Rosimorn Monastery. You've got two ways to pull this off, so let's break it down. The shortest way is to head towards the Inquisitor chamber within the Crash. And you can check the previous trophy, the Lich-Queen's Wrath, for an explanation of how to get there. On the left side of the room, you'll find two statues that can be rotated, but you'll need to pass a strength check for the left one to turn it. If you're struggling, you can grease them up a bit, literally, but do make sure to hit the turntable with the grease and not the statue, as then it won't work. Now turn the left statue towards the wall and turn the right statue facing away from the wall and the door will open. When you enter, you have to disable the traps by destroying the energy sources to continue. The first one is easy, but from then on, you have to be careful with how you move, so enable turn-based mode to disable or pass the traps without being constantly blasted off the edge. The second energy source is located behind the rocks, the third energy source is near the bottom of this cliff. And disable the damn traps, or feel their wrath, even after disabling the energy sources. Once the energy sources are down, you'll enter the final room where the blood of Lathander awaits. Grab it and run. You have 4 turns to escape, or you and anyone not quick enough to make it outside will be blown to bits. The person who takes the maze will be trapped unless they can Dimension Door or Misty Step out, and then you have to get everyone through the portal and off the building. This can be done by simply jumping off, even without something like Featherfall, because as long as you survive the jump and end up on top of or near these stairs, even right here in this area, you'll avoid the not so spontaneous human combustion. Anyone that dies can be revived, though they won't be too happy about it.
What in the sweet hells were you thinking, activating that lance? I was right there! Gods!
You can also try to disable all 4 of Lathander's solar machines, and then the explosion won't occur. But if you want a less stressful situation, there is another way to get the maze, but it takes a little bit longer. Let's rewind all the way back to when you first needed to find a way inside the monastery. Instead of going down here, jump up and then find the room on the upper level with the stained glass window and altars. One of them is glowing due to the ceremonial longsword that lies on top, and you'll need to collect the other 3 ceremonial weapons and place them on their respective altars. For the ceremonial battle axe for Dawnmaster Visaid, go back to the area where you entered the ruins. Then smash through the crumbling wall right here, and the axe lies on the floor, but it is protected by a guardian spirit who you'll have to fight if you want to pick it up. If you now walk back inside, you'll pass a set of knotted roots which you can climb up. There, the ceremonial warhammer for Dawnmaster Seed can be found in the eagle's nest, though you'll likely have to battle the eagles to grab it. Now from here, you can walk to the fountain, and if you look to the north of it, there is another set of roots that you can now climb down. Then you walk to the edge of the pool, and there you'll be able to make a jump onto the rocks across from it. Now walk down and jump towards the hole in the wall, and here will be some drunk kobolds ready to fight you. And when it's done, the ceremonial mace can be picked up from a kobold looter's body in this Firewine storage. Alternatively, you can just use the mace from Dawnmaster Stockhold's grave at the top of this hill, and it will still work. Place the weapons on the altars with the corresponding Dawnmaster, and you can just drop them from the inventory and then drag them on there, or you can throw them. And if you did it right, a hidden pouch will reveal itself containing a crest. Now let's fast forward to that room with the blood of Lathander. You can insert the crest before taking the mace, and that gives you the ability to grab it without triggering the whole destruction. Whatever you choose, once you have the blood of Lathander, it will result in this achievement. Non-Invasive Procedure. Kill the surgeon before he performs surgery on you in combat. In the Shadow-Cursed lands, you'll probably find yourself at the House of Healing at one point or another. It is home to Storm, who you'll need to take down before he performs an unscheduled surgery. What does that mean? Well, if you fight him, he will fairly quickly use up an action to ask one of his assistants for a tool. The sister will then become the surgeon's chosen, and if close enough to Malice, in her turn, she will now use an action called Hand Me My Insert Tool Here, where she gives him the requested instrument. Then when it is Malice's turn again, he will use an action specific to that instrument. When he does and attacks you with it, you are officially his patient as he performed surgery, which for this achievement you want to avoid. There are a few ways to go about this, but one option is to convince his sisters to turn on each other through the dialogue before the fight. When you walk up to the room, the conversation will start and you'll get a bunch of dialogue options. All will let you proceed to the next step, except for attack, of course, so don't do that. Then you will need to pass an investigation check with a DC of 14 or a religion or persuasion check with a DC of 16. After which it always leads to the persuasion check with a DC of 21 to get them to actually do it, which can be tricky. But if it works, during the fight he then has to use up an action to revive the sister to get a tool, which gives you more time to perform your own special surgery on him. With the dialogue options, you might be tempted to choose the option to convince him to let the sisters do the surgery on him, or the one where you convince him to do a demonstration on himself. And then you've done the kill the surgeon before he performs surgery part, but you are forgetting about the achievement stating that it must be in combat, so sadly, this is not an option. What you can do is choose to trigger the fight from a distance. That way, it takes a few turns for him to ever get close enough to attack you with the tool. Just keep running away, do a few hits, rinse and repeat until you've whittled down his health, and boom, trophy unlocked. Also, don't worry if one of the sisters attacks you, or Malice himself, because as long as he doesn't hit you with a tool that he requested from the assistant, you are good to go. Penny Pincher. Defeat the toll collector without her using gold against you. Garangud Thorm, or however you pronounce that, hangs out at the toll house just before Moonrise Towers. And she will do everything in her power to hurt you with your money, but you mustn't let that happen. If you don't feel like fighting and carry some money in your pockets, you can talk your way to victory by using the following dialogue options. Start off with, "Who are you?" or "What do you require?" Toss the creature a gold piece. You can toss another and another, but eventually you'll want to continue by choosing, "I don't hand out so much gold for so little in return." Then choose the skill check with a DC of 18, and the exact line will be a little bit different based on your class. Finally, you can choose any of these options and pass the check with a DC of 21 to defeat her. But this is easier said than done, plus who doesn't enjoy a good fight? Here's how to do it while keeping your pockets intact. Send all the money that your characters are carrying back to camp. Now I also recommend to send in a character that can sneakily pick up all the gold on the floor and then send it back to camp as well, because this is to prevent her from using attacks like these. Pickpocketing her gold does not seem to have any effect on her ability to use money in the fight, so the best strategy is to keep her at a distance by fighting from the rooftop, especially since she will use Coin Whip instantly if your character is close and her initiative rolls higher. In the fight, you must kill the flying skulls first, as they are what keeps her health up, and then when all the skulls are down, she can be taken out really easily, which should result in the achievement. She cannot be caged. Rescue Sazza from the Emerald Grove, Goblin Camp, and Moonrise Towers in one playthrough. Let's start with the rescue from the Emerald Grove. Now, when you reach the gate of the grove, do not rush in after the fight. Instead, take a little detour to the cave entrance to the left of it. Why? Because this is the escape route for Seza, and if you clear out the goblins and the traps before you take her through it, she won't be killed by either of them. You don't have to, but it ensures a clean exit. Now head back to the Emerald Grove and make your way to the prison area. Here, you'll have to talk Arca down from shooting Seza in the face and then wait for the tieflings to leave. Free Seza from the cage and escort her through the back, into that cave that we cleared earlier. Get out on the other side and Seza will run off to the goblin camp, which is where we need to save her again. When you reach the goblin camp, Seza will be waiting for you at the entrance and help you inside. The next time that you'll see her is when you go into the encampment to speak with Minthara. This lil gob wants to poke a few holes in you, so Minthara gets pretty pissed when she finds out that you are a true soul. Now, as good as it may feel to pick any other option, for this trophy you must convince Minthara that Seza's telling the truth and she had no clue you were a true soul, thus sparing her life. But due to Seza, Minthara now knows about the Emerald Grove, so she'll move forward with her attack plans. Do not go against her here because it will result in a fight with Seza, and even knocking her unconscious in that fight will result in no trophy. Once Seza is safe from Minthara, she'll hang out in the main hall of the goblin camp. Don't fight her, don't get her into any battles by fighting the others, just let her chill. Finally, you'll arrive at Moonrise Towers in Act 2, and when you get there for the first time, Ketheric will command you to deal with the goblins, and suggesting you to do anything but what we have to do for the achievement. Choose to let them walk out freely, and once they exit the front door, you'll have it in your pocket. Under lock and key. Rescue all the prisoners from the depths of Moonrise Towers in one playthrough. Whatever you do, do not enter the Shadowfell until you've freed everyone, because if you head into the Shadowfell first, it locks you out of rescuing them. To reach the prison, you must go to Moonrise Towers in Act 2, then take the door to this hallway where you can click on the stairs, and then you've made it. Depending on the type of playthrough you are doing and the choices that you made earlier, there can be a group of imprisoned gnomes, tieflings, and or Minthara. From what I read online, it doesn't really matter who is or isn't in the prison. What matters is that the ones that are there are all saved. Now, there are various ways to go about receiving this achievement, but each has their own set of special quirks. I'd recommend you, if you have Minthara on your list of damsels in distress, to do her first before you try anyone else. She is in the room to the left from where you enter the prison area, marked by the blood trail, and you can just talk your way out of her escape by passing a few checks with the questioners and Minthara, and then with the guards in the other room.
You really do have a way with words.
From then on, you can just take her to the docks and jump away from Moonrise without any further issues. Should you choose to fight, you can focus on the questioners first, and after that Minthara joins your team so you can control her actions, making it a little bit easier to fight your way out. And again, just bring her outside and away from Moonrise, and then she can come to your camp or whatever. For the tieflings and gnomes, it is a bit different since they are behind bars, but you do have many options. For example, you can do a classic jailbreak where you open the cell doors by pulling the lever in the guard's office, and then you fight your way out with them to the docks. They'll then just jump away from Moonrise and somehow reach Last Light Inn unaffected by the Shadow Curse. Yeah, I don't understand either. Lyrian, why do I need a stupid lamp? But these motherfuckers can just run into it and live,
She loves me. She must do.
Anyway, this approach is extremely risky as the chance of one of the prisoners getting smitten by thunder is pretty high. The chance of multiple of them meeting the same fate, even higher. Though you can choose to clear out all of the guards, even those at the docks, before breaking them out, and then they can safely bolt away. Alternatively, you can have a chat with the gnomes and learn about their escape plan. You'll have to toss Wolbrun a bludgeoning weapon. Any will do, but you can find his hammer in the guard's office if you want to be considerate, though you are more likely wanting to smash his brain in. JK. Throw the weapon through the cell door, and the gnomes will then start to break down their back wall and grab the tieflings. They'll then escape to the secret dock if you are able to put up a good distraction or help fight the guards that will go after them. My personal favorite method is to smash your way out. So smash all the guards. There are 5 guards in the first area. One is near the stairs you use to get into the prison. Then there are 2 at the door to the docks, and 2 in the torture room. Then near the cells, there is 1 guard patrolling, walking up and down the entire area, and 1 is all the way at the end. There are 2 scrying eyes that float around the area as well, and if you go into the office, you'll find the warden, and on the upper floor there is another scrying eye. Finally, at the docks, there are 4 guards. You have 2 guards patrolling from the middle and both go to one of the sides, and 2 are standing on the dock itself. When you've done that, you can head to the end of the prison and then jump up onto the rocks right here. You can use the crates next to it if your delicate little legs can't make the jump. And then you'll enter this backroom area with some chests and more, but most importantly, you'll find the back walls of the cells. Smash through both walls with a bludgeoning weapon and the prisoners will make a beeline for the boat. You can then choose to sail with them to Last Light Inn or meet them later. Leaving any guards alive in the prison will lead to them attacking the prisoners at the dock with this method, just like they would when Rolbrand smashes his own wall, which can result in some casualties. But there is something more important I want to disclose, as this has a tiny chance of screwing up your achievement. If you smash the back walls of the gnomes and they free the boat before you got to the tieflings' wall, they will leave without them and vice versa. If they sail off, you can then break out the others afterwards, but it will mean that they will run out like they would if you open the cell doors. If you eliminated all guards, it should not give any problems, and then they will just go to Last Light Inn, otherwise they will have a fight on their hands. But if you choose to sail to Last Light Inn with one group, or if you leave the area while one group sailed off and the others are still behind bars, they will disappear from their cells when you return. Meaning, you cannot free them and they are not at Last Light Inn either. The journal even says they are defeated, which is quite funny seeing as there were no guards to defeat them anymore. But with those warnings covered, as long as everyone makes it safely to Last Light Inn, the achievement will pop up no matter the method you choose. No free lunches. Defeat the Apostle of Myrkul before it consumes any necromites. So, you've made it to the final battle of Act 2, and now it's time to take down the Apostle of Myrkul. Due to the earlier choices, you might have to defeat Ketheric first, or if you've convinced him into submission, you'll immediately battle against Myrkul. The fight with Ketheric is not important for this achievement, but it will give you more time to take out all the other enemies, and thus being able to focus on all the necromites once you start the round with Myrkul. I highly recommend you to enter this room with all but one of your party members in stealth mode. One can trigger the fight, and then the rest can be positioned more strategically all over the map before things get crazy. Do note that once you free the Night Song, all of your crew, even those in stealth mode, will be pulled into combat. When fighting Myrkul, he will attempt to consume the necromites, either by using Call of the Damned to suck everything towards him, and then a necromite close to him can use For the Lord of Bones and give himself to Myrkul, or the necromites can just walk up to him on the platform and do it as well. If he consumes one, the achievement is over. So, how to stop him from doing that? Crowd control. Just kill all the necromites. After every round, he spawns new ones, again, hit them even before they are born. And remember, the necromites will often try to walk towards Myrkul, so you can position your characters in a way that they will trigger an opportunity attack as they walk off. Dame Aelin will do most of the heavy lifting, allegedly, because personally I have found that to not always be true. But hey, at least she cannot die. Though healing her is nearly impossible when close to Myrkul due to his presence bone-chilling everyone nearby. Lastly, know that if one of your characters is up on the platform with Myrkul, he will choose to use Gaze of the Dead and Reaper Sight instead of Gaze of the Dead and Call of the Damned. So, if you are able to risk taking some damage, it can help to stop him from sucking up all the nearby necromites. When his hit points reach 0 and he hasn't had a free lunch, the achievement will pop up. Crash Landing. Kill the dragon in the wormway while he's mid-flight. This is a difficult one if you go in blind, because Ansur is not only high on hit points, he has the most annoying legendary action where he'll use Lightning Breath on the first one to attack him every flippin' round. But first things first, you need to find Ansur. Head to the Worm's Rock waypoint and make your way down the stairs into the prison. There's a hidden passage nearby marked by 2 dragon head lanterns. If If you've got the book about the worm from Ravengard, Floric, or her assistant,
The Legend of Ansur.
it tells you to zap these with lightning. But you don't need to wait for that book to tell you what to do, just cast Shocking Grasp or any other lightning spell to reveal the hidden passage. Before you face Ansur, you will need to pass 4 trials. Let's go through them from left to right. Trial 1. You have to serve the right sentence. To do that, you need to get rid of the judge, and you can do many things to him. But my personal favorite is to polymorph him into a sheep. Once he's gone, you can pick up the painting with the prison sentence and place it on the altar. Trial 2. Strike down the bad counselor. To know who this is, ignore the bookshelves. There are 3 flying books and you have to click on them, pass the checks, and then they'll be in your inventory for you to read. If you do not pass the check, you cannot get that book with that character, so you can switch to another companion, try to pass the check and get them, or if you're feeling less literary, just end Suelto and be done with it. Trial 3. Let the Dark King fall in less than 2 moves.
Are you a commander of armies? Or a shivering pawn?
Now you can just checkmate him by moving the other pieces around in less than 2 moves, or literally attack it and get it to 0 hit points with 2 actions. Trial 4. Pick up the torch and withstand the elements. You literally do not have to kill them. As long as you don't die for those 4 rounds, you're good. Just know that the one who picks up the torch cannot equip any other weapon for the full 4 rounds. Once the trials are complete, the statues light up and the door to Ansur opens. But there is another way. If you fail any of these trials, you can brute force your way to Ansur by fighting waves of enemies. You'll fight a wave in every trial room that you fail to complete when you trigger it, plus 1 in the central area. That means if, for example, you finished 3 rooms and you failed the last one, you'll only fight 2 waves, 1 in that room and 1 in the central hall. When you win those fights, the door to Ansur opens. So finally, you've made it to Ansur. If you used up all your spell slots, I recommend you to just walk back the way you came, take a long rest, or take a potion of angelic slumber before coming back for the fight. I'll repeat it. The key is to kill Ansur mid-flight while he's hoarding energy. That means that you can attack him however you want, whittle down his HP, but don't accidentally kill him before he goes into that energy hoarding mode. When he does, land the final blow and the crash landing achievement will be yours. And just so you know, Ansur will go into energy hoarding mode over and over again until either of you die. If you can't finish him off when he goes into energy hoarding mode the first time, you can just hide behind the crystals or use a globe of invulnerability, if you have one, to not get smoked. If you have neither, you can pull a tactical retreat back to the door because this has saved me once, so maybe it can help you too. Fancy Footwork. Defeat Gortash in Worm's Rock without activating any traps. Achieving this trophy can be quite tricky, as there are many methods that tend to trigger the traps quite easily. But first, let's clarify what actually counts as a triggered trap. From my experience, there are 4 types of traps around Worm's Rock. Incineration casters that unleash fire to scorch you, grenade impalers, and these throw concussion grenades into the room. You have the ranged force curtains. These can give Gortash a debuff, making him vulnerable to certain damage types, and micro Modron force curtains, who on the other hand give Gortash additional resistances and such. There are also stun traps outside on the top level, but they don't seem to count towards the achievement. Now, from the information I've gathered and my own personal playthrough, I fully believe that the force curtains do not count towards the achievement, or at the very least, the 2 behind Gortash in his office upstairs, as they will automatically activate when you start to fight with him. As for the rest of them, well, if you get too close to the grenade impaler or the incineration caster, they will activate and that voids the achievement. So, what options do you have? You can choose to kill him before or right after his coronation in the audience hall when you get to Worm's Rock for the first time. However, this method only really works if you disable the traps first, somehow, some way without triggering a fight, or eliminate him in one action. Otherwise, it's almost guaranteed that the traps trigger, plus it is also a tricky fight with all the Steel Watchers and the guards around. A safer alternative is to do it when Gortash is in his office upstairs. He moves there when you leave the area after the coronation and then return. This room is full of traps. The entrance room has 2 incineration casters on each side of the door and 2 on each side of the archway. There are 3 force curtains, 1 above the fireplace and 2 on the wall opposite of that. Again, I don't think they count, but you may want to disable them just in case. And then there are 2 grenade impellers in the corners of the wall with the door. Now in Gortash's room, there is 1 incineration caster on the archway and 2 on the wall behind him. There are 4 grenade impellers, 2 in the corners here and 2 on the side walls here and here. The force curtains are directly above and behind Gortash, but like I said, they don't count. Now, if you stay on the red carpet near the table, none of the traps should trigger. However, this is only reliable when using a single character, because if you just barge in with your full party, the conversation will trigger, and when you then start the fight, someone will be standing too close to a trap, activating it instantly. On top of that, an enemy might shove you closer to one during the fight, and also the Steel Watch can be a pain in the ass here. You can of course choose to disable the traps in the first room before the fight, and then lure the fight over there to be safer, but I'll show that in more detail with the next option, which is where you've gone into the lower city and disabled the Steel Watch factory, making the fight much easier as all of those Steel Watchers will collapse.
That was a hell of a show, my friend.
But from that moment, you can no longer fast travel to the Worm's Rock waypoint and must find a different way inside. Personally, I like going to the Basilisk Gate waypoint and then travel back to Worm's Rock from here. When you get there, you'll be confronted by some flaming fists in the hallway and the rooms to the right. Deal with them however you please, just do not go to the left to continue into the audience hall where the coronation was, because the traps will trigger immediately, unless you're like invisible. And they do count towards the achievement. Instead, go to the room where the waypoint originally was that you can no longer use, and go down into the prison area from the passageway. There you can walk to the right, and behind the door there is a pantry of sorts. Go up the little wooden stairs and there will be a wall that you can smash through. This leads to a secret path that takes you outside, but you may have already used it to break out Floric. Once outside, turn right, and we are going to walk all the way around Worm's Rock. As you can see, you could have also gone to the South Span Worm's Crossing waypoint and then jump down here with Featherfall or Misty Step, because the bridge will be up. But regardless what you choose, from here just climb up the roots, then jump over this little gap and keep following the path around. Now walk upwards to the ladder, climb the roots. There will be a locked door here that you can lockpick, or you can use brute force to enter inside. At this point, you'll be in the back room of the audience hall, so do not go inside these 2 doors or it will trigger that fight. Instead, turn right again towards the southern door to go outside, and there you can jump up onto the wooden planks. Or, if one of your characters can't make the jump, just make a nice little stack out of the boxes, climb up on those, and then jump up. Finally, take the ladder up and you are at the office. Again, there are stun traps here on the outside area, hidden with a perception check. I don't think they count, but you could disable them to be sure. Now, you can walk into the first room and take out all these traps. They are vulnerable to lightning damage, meaning that Shocking Grasp works really well on the ones you can reach. You can also use an Arrow of Lightning or a Chain Lightning spell. I do want to add that if you disable a trap during combat, especially the incineration casters, it seems to count as triggering the trap and will void the achievement. However, if you disable them before combat starts, they do not count as being triggered, so make sure to take them out before engaging Gortash or his guards. Once the traps in the first room are taken care of, position your character carefully just out of sight in the second room and then disable the trap next to the archway. If the Steel Watch is still active in your playthrough, they will be stationed in this corner, and the explosion from disabling the trap may turn them hostile, and I think that counts as setting of a trap, so just to be safe, take that into account when planning your approach. But if you blew up the factory, this is no longer a problem. With all of the traps close to you now disabled, position your character and trigger the fight by attacking Gortash from a distance. Use a targeted attack, not an area of effect spell, because again, if you accidentally hit the traps near him, that does seem to render your achievement invalid. Once combat has triggered, immediately retreat back into room 1 or even all the way outside, and there you are now free to gang up on Gortash and his goons without setting off a single trap. Achievement in the pocket. Murder in Baldur's Gate. Become an unholy assassin of Baal. To embrace your inner psychopath, there are several ways to approach satisfying this murderous craving. The most common way to begin the quest is by investigating the murder of Father Lorgan at the Open Hand Temple in Rivington. In the temple, head to the kitchen and go down through the hatch into the cellar. From there, you need to access the cave area, and you can reach it by passing a perception check near both of the heraldic signs. If you do, you can press them and they'll reveal a button. Pressing both of the buttons opens up the way. If you fail one or both of the perception checks, don't worry, just head into the side room and jump through the hole in the back of the wall. Alternatively, you can also reach the cave from the beach in Rivington, and if you walk under the bridge leading to Worm's Crossing, you'll find a cave mouth. Move the boulders blocking the entrance and you'll be able to pass through. Inside the cave, you'll have to fight with a group of doppelgangers. One of them carries a key with a flower motif. Loot it. Now head into Worm's Crossing through the South Span checkpoint and make your way to Frego's Flophouse. It's located across from Sharess's Caress. Go upstairs and take the ladder to the attic. There you'll find a locked wardrobe which the flower key will open. Inside you'll find various clues, but what we are here for is the list of murder victims. If you want to skip the Open Hand Temple entirely, you can also lockpick your way inside that attic room or find a list when you reach the lower city. In the lower city, you might be exploring around and then see this boarded up home where Frank Peartree lies dead on the floor. In the back of his room, you can find the list and that triggers the quest as well. But maybe you choose to go to the Elfsong Tavern first and go upstairs past the Flaming Fist and then walk into an active crime scene at Stelmane's parlor.
Duke Stelmane's dead, and I've got to find who killed her.
If you convince Detective Devella that you can help her out with the murders, she will also send you to Frank's house where you can find the list. But maybe you walk into the abode of Alexander Rainforest first, and as he is one of the victims as well, you can find a copy there. Once you have a list, go to Cora's house. It's just past the Elfsong Tavern, and there you will find Master Metzley, aka Dolor, and he will only appear there once you've found a list. At her house, there is a wine tasting going on, and you can speak to Cora and warn her. This will trigger a fight with the doppelgangers and Dolor, and if you manage to kill him before he flees, you'll get your hands on a bag of hands and a password. If Dolor escapes, don't worry, you'll find him again near the upper city gate at the Facemaker's Boutique, where he'll be in the midst of a ritualistic attempt to murder Figaro. Kill the Lord there to receive the hands and the password from his corpse. But there is another way, like always. If you want to fully embrace Baal's will, you can start murdering the remaining victims on the list yourself. That can be Cora at her home, Chef Revere in the kitchen of the Elfsong Tavern, Nisha at the Blushing Mermaid, or Figaro at the boutique. Once you kill any one of them, you might have to walk around for a little bit, but eventually a Baal fanatic will approach you and tell you to kill one more from the list and take their hand.
You will need it for what lies ahead.
If you don't have the list at all prior to killing one of these four, it will cause the fanatic to give you the list during your first meeting. Kill another target, loot their hand from their body, and the fanatic will return at some point, giving you the note with the password. No matter which method you choose, you must obtain the note with the word Sicarius. This is crucial to continue with the next steps. With your hands in hand, head to Kendall Hallow's tombstones, head inside the building and walk into the office room. There you'll find a painting on the wall, and regardless of whether your perception check works or not, you can drag it off. Underneath sits a button, press it and the bookcase will slide open, revealing a cellar door. Click on the door, speak the password and gain entry into the Ballast Crypt. Inside, you'll meet that which guards the doorkeeper of the murder tribunal. If you killed the lord, show him the bag of severed hands that you looted from his body and he will grant you entry. Or you can choose to slaughter all 3 of them and force your way inside. If you did not kill the lord because you chose to murder the victims yourself, you will be forced to fight him right here as only one of you can enter. Persuading the lord to fight the tribunal together is not an option. If you kill the tribunal, you won't be able to become an unholy assassin, and this is true for all of the next steps as well. If you really want to kill them, do it after you become an unholy assassin.
Enter now the Dreadlord's trial.
Now you made it to the murder tribunal, and it's time to meet Sarevok. Show him the hands you've collected, and if you didn't kill the victims yourself but stole the bag from the lord, then you'll have to pass a deception check to impress the murder tribunal. Or if you did do all the work yourself, just choose any of these options and it will be fine. Then for the final trial, Sarevok will walk you into a second room and instruct you to kill Valeria. Now be careful, if you accidentally unshackle her with one of your attacks, everyone in the room will turn hostile and you'll be locked out of becoming an unholy assassin, so use a more direct attack approach. Once Valeria is dead, bathe in the blood of the tribunal and officially become an unholy assassin of Baal, and get your achievement with it. I do want to say, just in case anyone is wondering, though it definitely suits a Dark Urge character, no, you don't have to be playing as a Dark Urge to become an unholy assassin. First Blood. Kill Orin while her cultists are performing their ritual chant. To reach the temple where Orin awaits, you'll need the Amulet of Baal to unlock the door in the sewers. And you can obtain the amulet in one of 2 ways. If you became an unholy assassin at the murder tribunal, Sarevok will hand it to you. Or if you chose to slaughter the tribunal instead, you can simply loot the amulet from Sarevok's corpse. If you're unsure how to reach the murder tribunal, just check out the previous achievement, Murder in Baldur's Gate, to receive that information. Now once the door is open, you'll enter an area with a trial of sorts. But instead of wasting time fighting through it, why not just drink a potion of invisibility and run straight past the entire thing? Trust me, it's a 10 out of 10 never doing that fight again sort of trial anyway. Now you can head through the door here and continue the path down past the sinister braziers until you reach the waypoint. From there, head straight towards the large closed door. If you're playing as a Dark Urge, your butler will open it for you. Otherwise, simply press the amulet against the door and it will unlock as well. Now you're ready to enter the Temple of Baal. Regardless of your choices, you will have to fight Orin in Act 3, but if you are playing as a Dark Urge, you'll get a 1v1 showdown with Orin, meaning that no cultists are chanting, which ruins your ability to get the achievement. There is a workaround where you send in a different character to trigger the fight and then have your Dark Urge join the fun, though normally this achievement is best done on a Tav or Origins run. The challenging aspect of this fight is that you cannot kill the cultists that give Orin her Unstoppable buff. That's 7 on a balance difficulty and 12 on Tactician and Honor mode. These are refreshed at the end of every round as long as they are chanting cultists, and I'll say it again, you cannot kill them, not even accidentally with an AoE spell. So, you have to think of a way to remove all 7 or 12 Unstoppables from her and kill her in that same round. The easiest way to do it is to use magic missiles. You can even gain 1 extra missile if you have the Psychic Spark Amulet, which you could have bought from Blurg in the Myconid village all the way back in the Underdark. Increasing actions through a haste spell, a potion of speed, elixir of bloodlust, or haste spore grenade, or even character builds with multiple actions will help massively, just like summons. For example, a water Myrmidian with explosive icicle can remove 3 Unstoppables in 1 round. When the Unstoppable feat is removed, hit her with as much damage as you can. She must hit 0 hit points in that round, or she refreshes his stacks again. So if necessary, you could Thunder Wave her off the edge, but if you come prepared, it's not that hard to end her. You can now continue the rest of the fight as normal, but the first blood achievement will be yours. Embrace your urge. Become Baal's ultimate weapon. Become his slayer. To get this achievement, you'll need to fully embrace the Dark Urge storyline.
Kill, and kill again.
That means unlocking your slayer form. It is also an important part of getting the Sins of the Father ending achievement and very easy to achieve, but only possible if you're playing as the Dark Urge. In Act 2, you'll feel the pull of your darker instincts. When you get the urge to kill Isabel, give in. Once the deed is done, your butler will visit you in your next long rest with a gift, your Slayer form. Do note that this choice locks you out of certain other achievements like Leave No One Behind. If you resist the urge to kill Isabel, your butler will want you to kill a loved one.
Your favorite person will be brutalized.
If you do it, it will also result in getting the Slayer form. If you manage to live long enough to receive it.
All the more reason to put you out of your misery.
If you resist again, you'll get a final chance in Act 3. After you defeat Orin in the temple, you'll get a cutscene where Baal makes you the offer to become his chosen. Accept, receive your Slayer form, and with it, this achievement. Ceremorphosis. Become a Mind Flayer to defeat the Netherbrain. Whether you already chose to use the parasite powers or not, to unlock this achievement, you'll need to fully commit to becoming a Mind Flayer in the final moments of the game. Once you've confronted the Netherbrain at the Morphic Pool in Act 3, you'll find out from the Emperor that only a Mind Flayer can use the Netherstones against the brain. The only option here is for you, or Karlach, if she volunteers, to transform into a squid.
Let me be the motherfucker who saved the world.
And don't worry if the achievement doesn't show up immediately after transforming, because you've done the becoming. Now you need to do the destroying, so when the brain's defeated, you should get it. Interfectorem Draconis. Kill the red dragon in the upper city. In the final showdown against the Netherbrain, you'll find a dominated red dragon. Kill him in whatever way you deem fit, and the achievement will pop up. Leave no one behind. Save every tiefling refugee you can throughout the game in a single playthrough. Oh, here we go. Time to explain one of the toughest achievements in Baldur's Gate 3. There are people online who state that they did not rescue them all, yet got the achievement, but since there's no exact saying which character counts and who doesn't, I want you to be safe, so let's dive in step by step. First of all, don't kill them. Yeah, that's it, really, thanks for watching. No, seriously though, I don't know if you're out here ready to hack and slash at everything in sight, so rule number 1, no tiefling casualties by your hand. Next, when you wake up at the crash site, you'll probably want to go grab some companions. If you're heading to rescue Lae'zel, you'll run into 2 tieflings, the Maas and Nemissa, who've captured her. Persuade them, or, well, I should say, deceive them to let you handle the Githyanki. The persuasion check causes a fight where you either save them or Lae'zel. With a successful deception check, make sure to wait until they're out of view before shooting Lae'zel down from the trap, or it also results in a fight. If you're playing as a Gith or a Drow, you must intimidate them to walk away, otherwise you're gonna have to kill them, and that's 2 casualties already. Come on. Next up, you'll be heading towards the Emerald Grove. When you arrive for the first time, 1 tiefling dies in a cutscene. Don't worry, it doesn't count. What does count, however, is if Zevlor dies in this fight, which I don't know how terrible you have to play to get that to happen, but it is possible, so make sure he doesn't. What you do next doesn't matter, just know that the following steps need to be executed before you take down the goblin leaders. Which is the way you'll deal with the goblins, because, you know, technically you could lead Minthara to the grove and then fight with the grove against them, but that will almost guarantee that a tiefling will die, and in my humble opinion, it's not worth the risk. But even if you choose to do that one, make sure to get through all of the next steps before you continue the quest. 1. Talk to Roland and his siblings and convince them to stay in the grove. Otherwise it causes a lot of tiefling casualties as no one is there to save the caravan from the cultists in Act 2. 2. Head to the area with the telescope where the bugbear assassin tries to sneak up on Nadira. Use turn-based modes once you get close just to be safe and attack first, especially if you take this route up, because he will reach her before you can ever get there. 3. Kaga is pretty set on turning Arabella into snake food at the inner sanctum. You have to convince her to back off and then speak to Arabella and her parents on the stairs to round it off. 4. Murkon needs saving from a swarm of harpies. You can reach the secluded cove if you walk through the stone gate from the central area of the Emerald Grove. It is the same route that also leads to Alfira, but instead walk straight ahead. Prepare yourself for this battle as it can be really difficult. But most importantly, don't let him die. 5. You must deal with the Rite of Thorns without triggering a fight with the whole grove. So please don't go and steal the idol of Sylvanas or assassinate Kaga, because that triggers a bit of conflict with the tieflings. What you can do is either rescue Halsin and deal with the goblins before the rite succeeds, because then he will return to the grove and deal with Kaga, or in the case you choose to bring the fight to the grove and turn against Minthara, which again I don't recommend, but after you then kill all the enemies, Halsin returns after the speech and deals with Kaga as well, or by exposing Kaga through grabbing some notes from a chest in the servant chamber, then going to the sunlit wetlands, which is near Auntie Ethel's house, jump your way to the decrepit sanctuary, where in the back of the tree stump you can grab the note exposing her. Though you might have to do a bit of a fight here. When you then return to the grove, confront her and either fight her or convince her to fight against the Shadow Druids. Problem solved. Because if the rite succeeds, all tieflings basically die, and also no, the rite is not triggered by long resting. If you're playing as a Dark Urge, you've got one more thing to deal with. Alfira. You'll have an urge to turn her from a musician into a bloody work of art. But there is a workaround. For the night that she comes to camp, which is usually the long rest after you get to the area around the Blighted Village, because I first thought it was the next one after you first spoke to her, but then in one playthrough I never spoke to her and got to the Owlbear Cave and then she showed up at the long rest, so anyway, use non-lethal attacks to knock her out and be careful that nobody sees you do it. And then you should be safe, unless they patch this out one day. I do want to mention another tiefling, as I've read a lot of conflicting information on her. In the Emerald Grove prison, you can find Arca, who wants to get revenge on Sazza. It was said that if you try to convince her not to, that she would live, but regardless of the choice you make here, after the tiefling party, you will always find her body at this location overlooking the goblin camp, so she does not count for this achievement, perhaps only when you choose to attack the grove and she dies in that fight. Okay, once you've done all of this, you can go and kill the goblin leaders, throw a party with your tiefling buddies, and head into the Shadow-Cursed lands. When you enter Act 2, you'll find some dead tieflings in the cursed landscape. Again, if you've done all that I've mentioned before, they are no longer part of the achievement. But of course, we have a new list of steps that do need to be completed before entering the Shadowfell. Go to Last Light Inn and speak to Roland. He'll be a bit of an ass and tell you that his siblings have been captured by the cultists, which triggers him to go look for them. Of course, he never actually reaches them and needs to be saved from the shadows right before a side entrance of Moonrise Towers. Now you have to save him before you rescue the prisoners from Moonrise. You can enter Moonrise, but once you break out the prisoners, Roland becomes shadow cursed if not helped. Next up at Last Light Inn, Isabel must survive the fight after first talking to her. If she dies or gets taken by Marcus, the tieflings die instantly. After that fight with Marcus, do make sure to speak to the kids that are worried about Mole, because they'll give you a little bit of info, and while you don't need to do anything major, it does trigger the quest to go look for her. I will mention that if Roland was still at Last Light Inn when this fight starts with Marcus, you have to ensure that he doesn't die in the fight, or that will also end this achievement run. Arabella also needs help again in Act 2, and you can find her near the House of Healing graveyard gates. Save her from the shadows and send her to your camp.
I'll be waiting, hero man.
She'll ask you to go look for her parent, who you can find in the House of Healing. Dead.
Our little idol thief has some terrible luck.
Interact with the sister to ensure this and then go back to camp. Break the bad news to Arabella, who will obviously be pretty upset. But after another long rest, you can go and talk to her in Withers and learn about her new life's mission.
Fear not, girl. The weave knows thy purpose.
From Roland, you now know that some of the tieflings are imprisoned in Moonrise Towers. Head there, and I'll say it again, after you've saved Roland from the shadows and helped them escape. If one dies during the escape, the trophy is gone, so be careful. You can check the Underlocking Key achievement for some tips on how to do it, though you do not have to take the gnomes if you don't want to. After you've checked off all of these tasks, you can now safely enter the Shadowfell. But once you are confronted with the Night Song, you must not let Shadowheart impale her. Doing that has the same effect as letting Isabel die, where everyone at Last Light Inn becomes shadow cursed, including the tieflings. Then with the Night Song freed, you can continue the game up until you are in the Mind Flayer colony below Moonrise. Zevlor is trapped in a pod next to the Tadpoling Center. Use the machine to unleash the captives and the Mind Flayers, and make sure Zevlor survives the fight that follows. Once he's out, your Act 2 tiefling saving duties are done. Time for Act 3. When you get to Rivington, check out the refugee camp and chat with all the tieflings there to wrap up any loose ends. Then once you reach the lower city, swing by the Thieves Guild and talk to Mol.
Wow, look who it is! Glad to see you in the city.
If you go to the House of Hope, you'll perhaps find her contract with Raphael. Just know that it is unimportant and you don't need to take any action on it. In the sewers, near the city sewers waypoint, you can find Arabella and speak with her, closing off that part of the story. Then, if you ever find yourself in the Elfsong Tavern, you can go up the stairs and take the ladder to the roof where Alfira will say her thanks.
Thank you. That means a lot.
And then you can choose to skip the whole questline at Sorcerer's Sundries just to be safe, but if you do it, be mindful that Roland cannot die in the fight that ensues with Leroican. He will fight on your side since you have rescued his siblings from Moonrise, but that means that it can be really hard to control what or whom he gets hit by. Now you're nearly done, but there's one final trap waiting for you. In the final moments of the game, you'll have the option to summon Zevlor and the Hell Riders to help. Don't do it. If Zevlor dies here, everything you've done up to this point was for nothing. So resist the urge and leave Zevlor out of the battle. Other than that, once you've slain the brain, the achievement should pop up. But it only does so when the credits start rolling. And finally, the You Can Do These at Any Time trophies. Roleplayer, complete 10 background goals. Background goals are those pop-ups that reward you with inspiration and XP and are specific to your character's backstory, thus only appearing when performing stat actions. You're probably already receiving these naturally, but if you are curious about the specifics for each background, I will link to the Baldur's Gate 3 wiki page in the description. Bedrolls and Breakfast. Take 4 long rests in one single playthrough. Please tell me this doesn't require any further explanation. Expand your mind. Consume a parasite and unlock an ability. There will be a point when you come across a corpse or a vial that has a parasite in it, like, for example, the one in Halsin's office at the Grove. When you pick one up, you will then get a long rest event where your Dream Guardian will ask you to consider expanding your power with them. From that moment, you can click on the menu in the top left and choose an ability to unlock if you have a parasite. Doing so will result in the achievement. Dig for victory. Dig up 5 chests. The first chest you can dig up is right after the Nautiloid crash, and they conveniently left a shovel next to it, which you will need to do it. Dig up 4 more and you're done. And don't even worry about the perception check, because if you know where to dig, just grab the shovel from your inventory and click on the area. No penny required. Cast Detect Thoughts. Successfully do this with a scroll, or when you get a Detect Thoughts conversation check, easy as that. Escapologist. Escape from prison. Any prison. Getting thrown into prison can be more difficult than it seems, as any crime should count near an area where there is a prison, but for example, I've noticed that if you commit murder and you're with your whole group, when you die, you die. The only way to get thrown into prison is if you have one companion stay safely away from the fight, and then when the others are downed, they'll wake up in the cell rather than that you get that game over. Stealing can also be tricky, as it usually becomes more of a verbal warning, but personally I have found the assault tactic to be easiest. Just go and hit someone and make sure that they don't die from the hit or are an enemy, and then in the dialogue option choose to go to prison. Escaping prison is much easier, thankfully, and there are so many ways to do it.
Are you sure about that?
Just know that if you do this deliberately, choose to stash your inventory in that of a companion or at camp before you do it, because it can be a bit of a hassle to get your stuff back at some of these locations. Without further ado, here's a lowdown on all the places you can stage your great escape. In Act 1, you can get locked up in the makeshift prison within the Emerald Grove. This has to be the least secure cell in Baldur's Gate 3, as you can just smash through the wooden wall in the back, or if you're feeling fancy, simply jump out. Do be careful of some of the torch stalks hidden by a perception check on that path out. Also, if Arca and her brother are still there, they will get hostile when you escape. But this cell has no roof and no guards if they're gone, so you can just climb out with the boxes or get another companion to throw in the lockpicking tool. At the Goblin Camp in Act 1, you can end up in the Warg Pens, if you manage to offend the goblins without starting a massacre, which is easier said than done. Again, assault works great, but if you finesse your way in there, you can get out by moving the body aside to reveal an escape hole. You will have to punch the hole a little bigger to get through it, but you could also choose to pickpocket the guard from inside the cell and swipe the key, and many more options. At Last Light Inn in Act 2, you'll be chucked into one of the 2 cellar cells. Again, there are no guards here, so everything is possible. The prison key sits on the table across from the cell, so you can use something like Thorn Whip or Mage Hand to throw it over. One cell has a weakened wall to smash through and a bunch of boxes that you can use to climb out. But once you've smashed through that wall, you usually get thrown into the other cell, which has nothing. But you could always use a gaseous form to fly out. The other prison in Act 2 is the one in Moonrise Towers, and this one's special as you cannot lockpick your way out. Do try jumping down the gaping hole in the floor or using Mage Hand or another companion to pull the cell lever in the guard's office. Do be wary of the guards and especially those stupid floating eyes. In Act 3, you'll find a prison at Worm's Rock Fortress where you can riddle your way out by speaking with Marvin the Unusual Skull. He will teleport you out to the guards if you get the answers wrong, or away from the guards and invisible if you get them right. And this will then work for all the companions in the cell. But if you're not into riddles, you can use any other method like pickpocketing the prison key and putting it in your cell before you even get arrested. The last one resides in the lower city in Act 3 and is called Heapside Prison. If you're a druid, you can just turn into a cat and scurry out through the tiny pipe in the back. You can also smash the wall or get a companion to stealthily smash it and then quickly escape through the sewers. So there you have it, your guide to prison break success. As you can see, many ways to get out of the prison, so get creative like a true delinquent. Outsourcing. Once Withers joins your camp, either after opening the sarcophagus in the dank crypt or by progressing far enough in the story that he just appears, recruit a hireling from him for 100 gold to get this. Jack of all trades. Multi-class one person in all 12 classes without respeccing through Withers. Anyone will suffice, so your TAF, a companion, or even a hireling. Just give them 1 level in every class. Homebrewer. Brew 3 unique solutions, so potions, elixirs, grenades, and coatings from the alchemy tab. Kill 2 birds with 1 gnome. Pick up an enemy and use them as an improvised melee weapon against another enemy. Now please make sure you use the improvised melee attack, the icon with the chair, not the throwing one, because I made that mistake way too many times. Also, high strength helps to be able to pick up the enemy. It also helps with damage, and you'll need to succeed an athletics check to do it, so best to leave it to the strong ones. Action Surge. Perform 5 attacks in 1 round. That's 1 round and 1 character. So the easiest way is to have a fighter like Lae'zel use Action Surged while buffed with a speed potion, though there are many other ways to stack attacks. Fists of Fury. Kill a character with an unarmed strike. Unequip your weapons and get ready to throw hands. And the last blow counts, so you can set your enemy up with other attacks if necessary and then deliver the final hit with your unarmed attack. Bottoms up. Long rest only using alcohol. This can be done at any long rest, just make sure to only select alcoholic beverages and then your party will wake up feeling rested and drunk. Shove off. Kill a creature through falling damage. You can shove, throw, or use Thunder Wave to knock an enemy into a chasm or from a high enough location, but then you do have to make sure that the fall actually kills them. Bookworm. Read 100 different books. This is probably the easiest one to achieve if you like to explore the lore, and every readable item counts. So books, letters, notes, etc. But they must be unique, so books with the same title will only count once. To keep track of that, you can send your books back to camp, and those with the same name will stack in your inventory. And also make sure to click through to the last page if they have multiple. And then you'll be surprised how quickly you can get this. Punch Drunk. Defeat 20 enemies while drunk. Just drink a bottle of alcohol right before or during a battle and attack. While the title says Punch Drunk, you can make use of any attack method. And you don't have to do it all in one fight or with one character, so get the whole party tipsy and go on a rampage. Rat Swarms are great for this due to their numbers and the low HP, but any enemy will do. Busker. Get 100 gold through performing. Find a crowd, grab a character with musical proficiency, equip them with an instrument and start performing. If you succeed on the performance check, you can stop. Once you do, the crowd will throw their gold for you to pick up, rinse and repeat until you've collected 100 gold. If you fail the performance check, you will not receive any gold, so you can just stop playing immediately and try somewhere else. And even if the check succeeds, it is recommended to walk to different locations before trying the same one again. The best crowds are in Act 3. You can try the Elf Song Tavern or just outside Sorcerer's Sundries, and if none of your characters can carry a tune, you can just recruit Brianna Brightsong, the Bard Hireling from Withers. And that, folks, is a wrap. I hope this guide helps you on your quest with your trophy or achievement collecting shenanigans, and if you've got any questions or just want to share a good tip for one of the achievements, drop them down in the comments and let's help each other out. Peace.
To you,